This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by Hamilton, a value-add investment and development firm in Nashville, Tennessee, focused on bringing passive real estate investment opportunities directly to your inbox. Visit www.investwithhamilton.com/invest to sign up for upcoming investment opportunities. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. I am your host, Tyler Cobble, and today probably going to be dealing with some more technical issues. I know if you were here live with us last week, we were dealing with coming on late because it took forever for the software to warm up and let everybody in. And today, Ian is still thankfully joining us. I think there's an internet outage in his area, so he's joining us with a hotspot. But really excited to dive into this conversation today, talking about self-storage investing. That's not a topic that we've really covered too much on this podcast, and Ian is a great person to be learning it from. So Ian Horowitz is a real estate entrepreneur based in Maryland and is a partner of Equity Warehouse, which acquires self-storage, commercial, and multifamily assets throughout the Northeast, and maybe looking at expanding here pretty soon. We've been talking about doing some stuff further down here. To date, they manage a $70 million portfolio with 225 residential units, both multifamily and SFR, 100,000 square feet of commercial, and 700,000 square feet of self-storage. Ian is also co-host of the Real Estate Reserve podcast, which I was on a few weeks ago, and was a former firefighter that turned, looks like we might have lost Ian. That was one thing that I was worried about happening with his internet connection. He might join us here in a minute, but Ian was a firefighter up there and ended up getting into real estate a few years ago and has absolutely just blown it up. I met him at a self-storage conference here in Nashville. He seemed to be like the guy at the conference, which is pretty cool. Great guy to talk to. So let's wait here a second and see if Ian is able to join us back again. If not, then we'll just reschedule this conversation. We'll have it another time when the internet's working. In the meantime, I guess I'll just kind of catch you guys up on everything that I have been doing around here. We are under construction on the Salt Ranch Hotel on Dickerson Pike, which is about a half mile down the street from my office. Really excited for that one. Looks like Ian is joining us back again. All right, Ian, you there?
Hey, sorry, brother. Yeah, we're having massive internet issues here. Apparently, our router blew up over the weekend while we weren't here, but let's see how long my phone holds up.
Yeah, there we go.
You think living in a major metropolitan area, this would not be an issue. So I apologize to your viewers. If nothing else, as long as the audio comes through good, we'll try to provide the best content we absolutely can, man. So
it's all good, man. I mean, the audio is coming through great. I just tried to keep everybody entertained while you were gone. But yeah, Ian, that was a very brief introduction of you and your background. Can you tell us a little bit about, transitioning from a firefighter into real estate investing and how you got there?
Yeah, man. A lot of it came out of a need. I don't know how much you got into it while I was gone, but we, my business partner and I, we were both firemen full time for the city of Baltimore. You ever watch The Wire? You saw any of the riots that happened? That's where we worked. We worked in the heart of West Baltimore, where it's a little wild and crazy, not the good wild and crazy like you guys have down there in Nashville. Just a little bit different. But with that being said, we got hired in 07 and 08 respectively. And it was probably a really good thing that we got hired then because it kind of forced our hand. We got hired 07, 08. We take a government job. Granted, it's a job we love to do, but we took a government job for security. Well, all that goes out the window. Pensions go bankrupt. Healthcare changes. They start messing with our pension. All kinds of crazy different stuff. And we're like, you know what, dude? Like, we're working at that time 2 10-hour days, 2 14-hour nights. And then we're working before our 2 night works, and then our whole 4 days off, dude. It is nonstop work. We're like, this is stupid. So we both kind of took a step back and said, well, how can we make money while we're at work, like while we're sleeping? What leaves a legacy for our family? God forbid we die in the line of duty. And how will they always be taken care of, no matter whether we're here or not? And the one thing that kept coming up is real estate. While you're asleep at work, we're making money because someone's renting our unit. God forbid we pass away in the line of duty at that time. They would have had an asset they could have sold off to collect money to take care of our family for the rest of our lives. And that's kind of how we got into real estate. It was really that the hand was forced. And once our hand was forced, we found out that we were actually what we believe to be somewhat good at it, and just continue to grow a portfolio from flipping houses all the way up to building residential single family properties, today to where we're doing multifamily and predominantly self storage. It's grown quite a bit over the past 10 years.
That's great, man. So you're saying you started with residential fix and flips?
Yeah, man, we did the down dirty, man. Like, we come from pretty humble beginnings. We're doing construction on our 4 days off. The first house I ever bought I bought it $25,000 cash. I had no clue what I was doing. Kind of put the house together. Had somewhat of a construction background. Got a Section 8 renter. I was all in for 50 grand. I was making $600 to $800 a month on my 50,000. I was like, dude, it was like crack for me. All the overtime in the world that I could have made, like, it would, dude, that $600 was the world. And then my business partner coincidentally got involved wholesaling, and he was wholesaling some houses and making big sums of cash. And we connected on a 4-property package that he had under contract. He had 3 houses that had tenants in them that we wholesaled off, kept a 4th one. We flipped it, made a bunch of money. It wound up being a 6-figure payday on that whole package. And said, you know what, dude, let's do it again. And we did it again. We did another flip. And, we started in the single family space, Section 8 subsidized rentals. We did the house flipping thing. We did the whole subsidized rental thing, the single family rental thing. And as we grew in scale, and maybe this is where the conversation was going, is that, doing this at one time in the single family world, we're like, hell yeah, dude, we're going to own every house out here. We're going to have 1,000 house portfolios. It's going to be great. And then you find out real quick how hard it is to scale in the single family world versus some other asset classes. Real quick.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, man. I mean, I know a couple of guys just in my circle that had built up, 100+ unit single family home portfolios, and God bless them. I don't know. I don't know how you could go about doing that. It just seems like an immense amount of work when you could, I know it's not obviously easy to just go and buy a 100 unit apartment complex on your first deal, but man, if I got to 10 or 20, I'd be selling those in 1031 exchanging into something bigger. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, there's a ton of gurus out there, like, do your first deal like this and do your first deal like that. And I think a lot of people, the risk versus reward and their comfort level, I would tell you, if you're not comfortable going out and laying $1 million to go buy an apartment building or do something like Tyler does or what we do in self-storage, it's just like go out and swing for some massive commercial asset. Go do a single family house. Who cares? You got to swing the bat. You got to get involved. You got to do some sort of real estate some sort of real estate transaction. I'll tell you right now, if we did not do the single family houses that we did and got really good at construction, got really good at getting our dick kicked from a property management side of things, got beat up every single day for people not paying and learning the eviction process, there's no way in hell we would be where we are today without those humble beginnings. For us personally, it worked going down the single family space. I believe if you have a sophisticated background, CPA type, lawyer type, whatever it is, you have some more wherewithal to risk more of your own capital. Sure, you could probably do a little bit bigger building on your first thing, but still be in a place where you're comfortable. I was comfortable because I said, you know what? If I lose 50 grand and this hard money loan and I screw it up and I owe this guy money for the rest, screw it, I'm fine. I can live with 50 grand losing that. I can't live with, I went out and raised a bunch of people's money and I lost their money on my first deal, dude. There's no way I could live with that.
Oh yeah, raising capital is not something that should ever be taken lightly, and that's one thing that I tell everybody whenever they express any interest whatsoever in syndicating is you need to understand the gravity of raising that much capital from people, because it is not a light responsibility by any means at all. And I think that's a great way to get started. I mean, I didn't really come from a residential background, but I spent 5 years in commercial real estate, starting off as an in-house leasing agent before I moved into the development side of things, before I ever took any capital from an investor. I mean, I was in the business for over 5 years before we syndicated our first deal. And I think it's incredibly important to grow intelligently. Right? Like if starting off with a residential fix and flip is the only way that you can do it, then go do it. Just get the experience. Because once you have that first deal under your belt, it's so much easier to see like, okay, we put $100,000 into this one house. I could see how we could raise $1 million, and here's the track that we would need to execute that upon, because man, it's, you buy it, The closing's the same, right? Getting the loan is relatively the same. It's just, another zero or two. And the construction's relatively the same, right? I mean, it's, you've got to deal with commercial code and different things there. But at the end of the day, going through that process is almost the exact same. So you're learning while getting paid to do it, basically.
Yeah, and I would go out and fight for you and say, you're 5 years in the office working for someone else. Dude, you were getting your dick kicked for someone else. You were learning. You had the background to go out and do the deal, right? Like, whereas for us, it's like, well, I still do like my job. I'm not willing to go trade my 8 days a month in exchange to go work another job and take the path that you did. But in the end, you still cut your teeth. And I think that's the point of it. Everybody needs to go out and cut their teeth and learn. Too many guys, and I'd be interested in your thought. I know I'm on your podcast. I probably shouldn't ask questions, but
no, let's do it.
Dude, let's be honest here, especially in your marketplace. How many guys have more money than they do, per se, knowledge to do the deal? And that's what we see a lot here in Baltimore. We get New York money and DC money just flooding in, and they're just throwing money at problems versus actually knowing how to do the deal. And I'm sure you see the same thing out in your market.
Oh, dude, we see it all the time. And that's why we try and step in and I offered a variety of services as a real estate developer, right? We can just be your leasing team. We could just be your property management team. We can help you design the project, and then you run it from there. We'll do the whole thing and come in and partner with you on it, because I see that happen so often. In fact, there was a deal that we dealt with a couple of years ago where the buyer inherited a bunch of money, right? Had a ton of money, paid cash for this property, probably $300,000 over what I thought it was valued at. And then sat on it for a year before I went back and I was like, look, bring me in as a project manager. Let me put this whole project together for you. We'll lease it, we'll manage it, and then we'll sell it for you, or you could just keep it in your portfolio forever. And that buyer could never, even though they brought us in, they wouldn't give us the latitude to come in and make decisions and go forward. So we designed this whole project for them, and it never went anywhere. And after sitting on it for, I think, about 2 years, they ended up selling it for, guess what? $2.1 million. Yep. The same amount of money as what they had bought it for. And it was frustrating to no end, but that's one of the, you see it all the time. People just have too much money and they don't know how to execute these deals. Money does not solve all problems in real estate. It doesn't solve all problems anywhere.
No, and I mean, actually, that's how we wound up raising a lot of money, and probably similar to you is like people, they like the background. They like the blue collar background that we know we're going to go out and get the deal. I tell everyone, I think being a fireman, we did really well because we always had to go to the scene, right? And we cannot leave until that goddamn fire was out, right? It did not matter the worst fire you've ever seen. We cannot leave until that fire's out. Let's start translating into our real estate business. It's like we're dumb enough to get up and do it over and over and over again. Too many people are like, it didn't go the way I planned. Screw it, I'm out. It's like, no, dude, we're here to put out fires. We're literally firemen in our own business of all right, man, that didn't work. Let's try another way. And that didn't work. Let's try another way. And that didn't work. Let's try another way until we get the deal done and keep going back to the well and call it dumb enough or calling it willpower or whatever you want to call it. Dude, you got to go out there and do the deal. And if you said you're going to do something, you got to go do it. And again, I think that's a whole other conversation for where America is. But too many people are like, didn't go the way it was supposed to plan. I'm out. See ya. Right. Versus saying, you know what, man, that project didn't go the way I thought it would go. Let me try something a little bit different this go around. And let me try to get it right, And again, that goes back to knowing your comfort level on the first deal that you're going to do. Sure, we're doing big, large storage deals right now. We're doing a big $6 million acquisition. Sounds like a huge number. There's nothing different between I'm doing in my $6 million acquisition and when I did in my first $25,000 acquisition. A few little things, a few couple zeros, and a bunch of stuff we learned. But in the end, it's intrinsically the same. So, do your first deal the way you're going to be comfortable doing it, and don't let anyone else sway you from that. Get out there and swing the bat.
I think grit is the number one characteristic that any real estate syndicator or investor or developer should have, because things are going to pop up. The road's going to be bumpy. It's going to be tough. But as long as you have that willpower to just fight through it and say, you know what, we're going to work on this until it's solved. Just like you said, we're not leaving until the fire's put out. That's the mentality you absolutely have to have. I mean, I'd probably be bankrupt in a ditch somewhere if I didn't have that, because so many things have popped up along the way that you could never predict. I mean, I had a partner that committed a massive amount of fraud that, I was worried he was going to get investigated by the FBI. It was of that level. It was so big.
Right.
And I could have just folded up and walked away. That's just one of countless examples where that's happened. But, dude, you just push through it and fight on. You have to.
Oh, it's like this podcast. My internet sucks. I could have easily said, Tyler, screw it. Let's do it next week. I lose all the credibility in the world. I'm going to figure out how to get this damn podcast done, whether it's the worst video quality or not. But, dude, the point is like you said you're going to do something. Let's go do it. Yeah, things come up. Probably a case that we probably should have rescheduled, but it doesn't matter, man. Like I want to get out here and do what we said we're going to do. But yeah, man, it's a tricky world out there. I'm with you. So
yeah, exactly. Well, hey, at least we got the audio quality coming through. So
yep.
Tell me about getting into self-storage. Where were you in your real estate investing career? Like what had you bought? What was your focus when you decided to kind of make that shift and start buying self-storage?
Yeah, so it was in 2019. We were doing good. We had amassed a pretty decent sized portfolio, about 100 single family rentals at that point. We had a project manager, a maintenance guy, just kind of grinding away. And what happened, not so much as it was like, what's better out there? It was, man, we're really getting priced out of the market. Home values were up here. Rent didn't follow with it. We were buying shells for anywhere from $5 to $25,000, putting 100, anywhere from 50 to 100 grand in relative, being all in for $120, getting $1,500 rent. And we were good. That was our wheelhouse. Next, dude, people are paying like $60,000, $70,000 for shells in neighborhoods we're working in. I'm like, man, is rent going to follow? Rent was not following on the market rate or the subsidized rate. And we're like, okay. Luckily for me, my business partner, he's like, dude, let's take time. Let's just work on our business. Things will level out. And I'm a little bit more of a visionary type if we haven't identified that yet. And I was like, oh, what else is out there? And was kind of digging. And, multifamily is insanely hard near us because we got a ton of like private equity, big firms. We're between DC, Philly, New York. We're in the area where we get stupid money that chases big buildings. Couldn't really find anything. We had a couple small buildings. I was like, all right, well, how do we get some market diversification? How do we get outside of here? We're looking at multifamily outside of Baltimore. Dude, Baltimore's a wild place. If you're buying residential here, it is a wild place. And we kind of have some trauma of operating residential real estate not in our own backyard because of how crazy it is here. We just won a 47-unit apartment building that's defunct because it's an outside of state operator and they have no clue what's going on here. So with that being said, it was like, how do we diversify a little bit against Baltimore? Because we're starting to see things go a little sideways, post riots, everything else. We landed on storage through a couple other guys that are doing it. You spoke at the gentleman's group, kind of followed along with him. And we learned from him. And it was like, you know what? We can get some market diversification. We can circumvent some residential laws that really got exposed during COVID of like, wow, you're not really in charge of your own space. That helped us there. Plus, you can go into some other towns where they're way more business friendly. Y'all in the South or, Baltimore's not. I grew up in Philly, so I'm technically a northerner. Baltimore is like this no man's land between the South and the North. Everyone's got this slow lifestyle, but they got that northern mentality of trying to screw everyone. So it was like, you know what? How do I get out into a place where they actually do business? And we got out in the rest of the countryside, and it's a different world, man. It's people are nice. It's a little bit slower sometimes, but more cities that are willing to do business with you, going into towns that are looking to have these sites redeveloped. And you know what it really came down to? It was something that we can manage from our home office. Whenever we looked at residential real estate, it's how can we manage that from our home office? Well, with self-storage, we can manage a lot more properties from afar because of the systems and technology that are in place that allow us to remote manage them all throughout the United States. And actually, I think not having them in our backyard has forced our process a lot more. Then we're probably crushing our own portfolio, right? Like the local stuff, we always needle it and play with it and touch it because it's in our backyard where some of this stuff's afar and has created better processes for us and has forced our hand to expand to figure out these processes. So
Yeah, I mean it's much more of a triple net style investment, right? Where you just set it and kind of forget it. I mean, it's you don't necessarily forget about it, but you don't drive past it every day thinking, oh, well, maybe we should paint the exterior to get this much
right.
more rent. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. I mean, it's a great asset class that you can buy anywhere in the country and manage from your home. We've got a client right now that's selling a shopping center here in Nashville for about 3.7 million, and we're going to 1031 exchange them into a self storage facility in Texas.
Nice.
I think we actually just went under contract on it a couple of days ago, but they had initially wanted to just invest in triple net properties, and I was like, well, I mean, we know triple nets really well. We work with investors across the country on those all the time. I was like, well, kind of based on what you guys are looking to do, I think we should also explore self-storage. And once they kind of dove into it, they were like, that's it. Let's go get a smaller, because I think the self-storage facility is only 2.8 or 2.9 million. So they'll have 600 left over to play with. They're like, let's go get a smaller triple net property and let's put the majority of it into self-storage, because it's just a fascinating asset class. You've got a lot of guys over the last decade that started off in single family or multifamily. They saw the cap rates get absolutely compressed by the massive amount of capital that has been coming into that asset class, driving out the yield, making it an unsustainable investment. And it's like, what's the next best thing? Self-storage. In my opinion, self-storage is actually better. You don't have to deal with tenants. You don't have to deal with any of the headache like you would in multifamily. Have you guys found that across your portfolio?
I will say it is a different management style than what you're used to dealing in residential real estate and even potentially some commercial real estate. And the fact that is we're not confined to consumer laws. If somebody doesn't pay their rent, they're getting locked out by the gate. They're getting a lien letter within 45 days. Their stuff's going to auction. There's no eviction process. During COVID, with the exception of California, who immediately got shut down, nobody messed with the lien laws during COVID, right? Like we're actually still in charge of our investment. Another cool thing, I like to tell everybody, you're buying and underwriting real estate, but you have a forward-facing business similar to a hotel. Dynamic pricing, upcharging for 24-hour service, upcharging for better location units. There's a selling boxes if you decide to man your store. You can run it as an unmanned process or an unmanned store with just a simple boots on the ground and a call center. And to say that your problems are just different. You're not dealing with heat and water and air conditioning and stuff that's essential for life. You're dealing with something where someone is storing their stuff. It's not an emergency. Yeah, people are going to act like it's an emergency because it's their stuff. But in the end, it's not life or death. Nobody's cooking. Well, nobody should be cooking in your unit. You know what I mean? The fire load is hopefully potentially a little bit less. We still deal with break-ins. We still deal with gate issues. We still deal with camera issues and people who lease something. They're like, "Oh, I thought my special was like this and not that." But there's more of an arm's length. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's easier on the mind.
It's not an emotional. It's not as much of an emotional process.
Exactly, 100. That's a great way to put it. It's not an emotional process because most people are driving down the road and going, you know what, my wife's been bitching at me. I should probably clean out the basement. You know what? I'm just going to rent that storage unit there. And it's not an emotional thing versus, all right, let me look at 6 different apartment units. Do I want to live here? Can I walk to the bars? Do I feel safe? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, I'm not paying my rent. Now I live in a blue state and I'm going to be in your unit for the next year, right? Like you got all these different things going on. And dude, you laugh, but you're probably laughing because you know it's 100% true.
It's true.
That this is the stuff that people are like, and I think that's where a lot of apartment syndicators said, you know what, apartments were good, negative cap rates are coming, COVID was terrible, I'm jumping into storage because I have more freedom to be a business owner, and I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Not to mention, dude, it's way easier to build storage units. You can build them in phases, you can expand on land. There's so many cool different things that you can do on these sites. Versus an apartment building when it's very cut and dry. Like, hey, I got an apartment building. I can only do residential leasing, and I'm stuck. You know, building. Sorry, I'm on a rant. Building in floodplains. Building on brownfields, right? Land that's just not commercially approved due to the environmental because you can't have someone live there, but you can do a commercial asset there. You really open up, and you can get better land plays on it. So.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, it's self-storage can become an incredible covered land play if you
Oh,
utilize it the
yeah.
right way.
Yep.
Because they sit on land that most people are just buying for the self-storage asset. But if you know how to develop real estate, you can buy it, cash flow it for 10 years, and once everything else is really developed around it, now you've got a much more developable asset. I want to get into construction on self-storage here in a minute because you know that we're doing that deal outside Chattanooga. Would love to talk to you about that one.
Yeah.
But first, when you're looking at these self-storage investments, I mean, what is a like hell yes, let's buy this, and what do you kind of look for to say maybe we should stay away?
Yeah, and you know how I just went on that rant. You guys can imagine my underwriting process has become a lot more convoluted than when we first got involved. When we first got involved, it was real simple. And I don't know how much you look at your commercial assets when you're doing this, but I got to assume on your Chattanooga deal, you said, well, I'm buying it for $2 a foot. That's well below replacement cost. It's a no goddamn brainer, right?
Yep.
And that's where we started. We said, if I could buy it sub $30 a foot, the land's free, and I'm so far below replacement cost, it's a hard to say no. From there, it grew into, all right, well, I'm buying it at or below replacement cost. Can I double my money? Okay, check, right? Now it's gotten to the point of the cash flow, the cap rate, the debt yield, and all the other crazy stuff that we all worry about. That it'd be way easier if I just lived my life the other way and just said, all right, can I buy it for stupidly cheap and make money? But those deals are getting harder to find as people become more sophisticated, as more people flood into the marketplace. So that being said, I would always say if you can find a deal that's below replacement cost, that is an existing deal that has storage on it, most likely you're going to be able to revitalize that if you're buying in an area that's good, in an area that's going through change, an area that has a lot of renters in it. If you can buy below replacement cost, 9 times out of 10, it's hard to get damaged on that buy, even with debt rates at 5% plus right now. If you can buy sub replacement cost, which is about on traditional type stuff, you're looking at $45 a foot plus or minus. If you can get in under that number, to me, it's a no brainer. Again, to go back to my very simplistic form of how I looked at it, below replacement costs, someone built that way back in the day. It's usually B2B type sales, right? The person that was owning it had success at one point in their lifetime. They owned the storage facility 9 times out of 10 for a long period of time in the family forever. They got too old to management. Things kind of went haywire, and they're not really managing it very well on a day-to-day basis. So what I said from an investment thesis was real simple. Can I double my money? It's below replacement cost. And if someone built this here, it's got good frontage. Usually I can get that back to where it needs to be because it's the staple in town. We're buying stuff in not huge towns. I buy in some bigger towns, but there's a lot of guys that buy in smaller tertiary markets that it's like, this is the storage unit for the town. People
It's the
know
only
it.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you can bring that back to life. I prefer personally a little more rooftops just because I think we did all the work in the city from the residential side of things that we understand population, where things are going. And I like to see people. I have trouble. We are buying a deal that only has like a 5,000 person town, which is insanely small for us. But we do like bigger cities and we like where people are. But in the end, man, you see those three things, go for it. I would tell people just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, coming from the commercial side, hearing $45 a square foot to to construct these things is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I mean, on the cheap end right now, we're looking at $150 to $175 a foot.
Yep.
And of course, now look, rents aren't going to match and stuff like that, but you could still get some of the same returns, if not better, sometimes in self storage. And when we started doing our research, I mean, the great thing about these storage units is that there are manufacturers like Butler that come out and literally just build the entire thing for you, or they could ship it to you and you put it together like Legos. I mean, it's
Yep.
relatively simple.
Yeah, and if you have a site plan, and I'll get into actually something for you. So you got a site plan. Most of these building manufacturers will lay it out for you, tell you to do the site work. They'll come in, pour the concrete, pop the buildings up and go, especially in your smaller town jurisdictions where you don't have lot line restrictions and variances and everything else that you need to worry about. Now, what we've done in some cases is we've removed fence lines and actually put in portable boxes to get around the setback requirements because they're quote unquote portable units. And we've been able to remove our fence line, which was a non-income producing square footage, and turning into income producing square footage by putting up portable boxes. And they look just like a storage unit. You wouldn't know, and I wouldn't know it just driving by at a quick glance. You're like, oh shit, that's a nice storage building. And actually, we got above market rent because they were brand new. And yeah, there's a lot of developers out there that'll come in. If you could build a residential real estate, you could build a commercial building, you can build storage without even thinking about it. I promise you.
Yeah, I mean that's the great thing about self-storage is it's if you've got any real estate experience whatsoever, I mean it seems like a pretty great asset class to move into if you want to start scaling. Right? Now, let's talk about that. I mean, a lot of capital has started moving into the self-storage market, right? Cap rates have gotten compressed. I remember, 10, 12 years ago, you could find self-storage facilities at 15 to 18 caps, which is absolutely crazy to think about now.
Right.
A lot of these units that are on the market are probably in the 6 cap range if they're operated well. Do you see any compression or decompression coming for the market soon?
Yeah, there's a lot of private equity. There's a lot of sophisticated capital chasing it. Plus, everyone and their mother thinks, "Hey, this is the easiest business in the world," right?
Yeah.
And that forces the marketplace. But with that being said, there's some people that we know that have bought deals and they just haven't worked out well. The the debt markets are slowing some of this down, and you're not seeing the huge negative buys that people are doing, where they're willing to take negative yield on their money in exchange to buy something. But we are seeing the compression because people are aggregating. There's more capital chasing it. It is getting harder to find deals, but I do believe that there's still a runway. We are all in on storage because we believe there's a runway, that we believe there's scalability, and we believe that it's just a phase. Once the apartment guys say, you know what, like I like the idea of this, but you know what, I still like my apartments. They just make more sense to me. That's going to happen. There's a lot that goes, and some of this is, there's a lot that goes into operating self-storage. Again, it's not set it and forget it. People just move in and move out by pointing and clicking. There's call centers, there's websites, Google paid per click. You're running a forward-facing business.
Right.
And we both know in the residential and commercial worlds, hey, how you doing? Sign your lease. See you in 5 years. See you in a year. Whatever. Cool. Let's re-up your lease. We'll do some TI, or we'll renovate your unit. Whatever. And we just kind of keep going about our business. We're in a much more transactional business, and I don't know how many people are going to be able to withstand that. However, if you can aggregate big portfolios, which we've been able to do, like Baton Rouge. Here's a prime example. We went to Baton Rouge, kind of bought 2 small stores. Kind of hanging out there, wasn't in love. I don't want to say we weren't in love with the town. We weren't in love with the inventory we had. But then a broker brought us a 250,000 square foot portfolio. We said, yes, we'll take it. 2 more deals pop up for us. Now we got 7 sites, 350,000 square feet in one location. When I go to sell that, my cap rate compression is going to be bigger than yours because a PE firm can come in and buy that and be like, you know what, we got scale in one marketplace. Or Public Storage says, you know what, we want scale in one marketplace and we're not in Baton Rouge yet. Let's go. And my sale price is going to be better than your sale price. So on both sides of it, the answer is yes and no. I hate to use the word depends because it's not a clear-cut answer. But if you're doing the right things, you'll see compression in the right way. If you're doing things and not digging for deals, you're going to see all the wrong things. So I believe there's opportunity, and I believe there's bigger sales on the back end. You just got to dig and do the hard work to find them.
Yeah, I love that strategy. Aggregating multiple sites and building them into a portfolio is not something that you really hear talked about very often because it's typically the more sophisticated groups that have the capital to go out and do it. But it's a pretty powerful investment strategy. One of my mentors, he's in the healthcare industry, and he goes out and he gets 10 to 20 physical therapists' office and brings them all together. They all, uses the same back end for all of them, which is cutting down costs, making everything far more efficient. And then he'll turn around and sell those 20 offices to somebody else at a 10, 12, 15x EBITDA instead of the 6 to 8x EBITDA that is market. And it's because these bigger capital groups can see the value in what you've already built. They don't have to worry about stability or anything like that. Like you've teed it up for them.
Well, and the other thing, think about it. He's got his back end for 15 stores. Think about the PE firm that's buying him that's got 100 stores. And it's like, you know what? We can consolidate here some and you fit right into our package. It's the same thing for us. Cool. We got this back end now. Now let's scale it, right? And then on top of that, don't forget, you got a website. I'm competing with Life Storage and Extra Space and CubeSmart and all these all these publicly traded companies. I want people in Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all these different states clicking on me to drive my ranking to the top of Google. You need this scale.
Yep.
But too many people are like, oh, I'm going to buy Nashville because I like going to Nashville. And they can only find one site. And then they're like, all right, well, I'm going to Alabama. And then they're going to Arizona and Utah. And all. It's like, I get on a plane and I go to Baton Rouge and in 2 days, I can do 350,000 square feet, walk through, see everything I need, and I'm home. And I could probably do it in one day if there was better flight options. By the way, if you're buying outside your market, find places that have direct flights only.
Yeah.
With that being said, and play New Orleans, I can see sorry, I'm going off on the sidebar. We could go to New Orleans, but that airport, if anyone is listening from New Orleans, they built a new terminal and then left the damn rental car center on the other side. So it's a 30-minute ride to get to the damn rental car terminal. I might as well just take the layover and fly direct to Baton Rouge. Anyway, buy something where there's a direct flight and it's easy to get a rental car. But buying scale in one marketplace, then it's like, dude, you call the brokers and it's like, hey, yeah, we're Squarespace Storage. We own a couple sites in Baton Rouge. Oh, yeah, what do you own? Oh, well, we own 7 properties, 350,000 square feet right in Baton Rouge. We're looking to acquire some more. They know you're a real buyer immediately. Or if they have a new deal in a new marketplace, they know you have the wherewithal to take it down, right? Like, it's instant credibility for yourself. And I think too many sponsors, too many real estate investors don't put any credit onto that. And I know we're going from acquisition operator side back to like the actual business, but like all this stuff plays together in my mind anyway. I don't know.
All of that matters.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Hey, David's saying, I'm in Baton Rouge looking for deals, but flooding is a hard issue. Did y'all have to deal with flooding at all?
Yeah, dude. Life lesson in FEMA flood insurance. Luckily, we have a great insurance broker. It was a good nod when he invested in one of our deals. Actually, the deal.
Oh, that's great.
Louisiana, I think he did it so he'd never leave him. But anyway,
hey, still smart.
Yeah, it's a great play, dude. Best 25 grand he ever spent. But anyway, dude, Louisiana's got some wild floodplains, especially the lower half. And with that being said, dude, like you gotta go in knowing if you need flood insurance. FEMA just changed everything around. Away from elevation certs and more the probability to flood, so double check all that, because there's a lot of storage facilities that were, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, were built on really shitty type land that didn't have any other use, but hey, you know what? Let's just do storage there. Nobody has to live there. It's real easy. Let's go. So yeah, take the time to look at that, and flood insurance can make or break your deal. I mean, dude, we're paying. It was like when we bought it before the new FEMA thing, it was like $70,000 a year in flood insurance. With the new FEMA update and everything else, we were able to drop that down to $35,000.
That's a massive difference.
Yeah, it's not often you get the government to give you money back, right? So, but no, that's the thing. You got to look at these, and they're crazy. Like if you ever look at flood maps, they're real crazy how they work. But yeah, it's definitely something you definitely need to consider when underwriting your deals.
Yeah. David saying, Ian, can I walk through with you next time you're here in town?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'm sure Tyler will let me share my contact info at the end. You know where to find me. I'm all over the internet. Shoot me a message next time we're in town. Definitely we'll reach out and connect. We always love showing people what we're doing, how it works. Somebody showed us early on how it works, and we're here to show someone else how the same thing. So.
Well, exactly. That's why you guys have your podcast. That's why I've got my podcast. I mean, it's so much easier to just share the information. I'm sure you've got a lot of people reaching out to you all the time too. I before I started all of this, I had people DMing me on Instagram, sending me emails, just asking me if I could sit down and grab coffee with them to just talk about commercial real estate. And I was like, man, I've really got to get out there and just start sharing this information, because there's a clear need for it and people aren't finding anything. So I'm glad it's working out at least a little bit.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's like, it's not that I don't want to, and this, it's like, it's not that you don't want to help everyone you run into. It's like, at some point, like, we're not gurus. We're actually doing deals, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to get my damn deals done because that's how I make all my money. And I'm
willing to make money.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm getting there, you know. So yeah, we're working on writing a book about self storage and everything else as we continue to get it there. But yeah, man, again, self storage is the best. So
Yeah, it's fun, man. Well, so let's talk real quick about construction. So, we're going through this process right now. We've got, I guess, about 180,000 square feet that we've designated as potential for self storage. I want to get your feedback on kind of my thoughts on it because this is obviously the first self storage facility that we've ever even done. So we decided to break it up into, I think, 4 phases. Because one, we want to see if there's enough demand. We don't want to just come out and build 600 units and then hope they all get leased up. The other thing that's really interesting about self-storage, for those of you that have never done it, it leases up very slowly. But once it gets leased up, it stays stable, relatively stable. After that, it takes, what is it? What have you seen, Ian? About 3% of the units per month get leased?
yeah, you can usually figure on a like a 70,000 square foot to 100,000 square foot build. Most feasibility studies tell you that 4 years, 3 to 4 years for stability. But again, all that comes back to square foot demands. And when you're developing deals, it's way different than what we're buying. And maybe we should spend, if you got the time, if you allow
Yeah.
me to rant, the difference between what we do versus what you're about to do on your deal, because we have not come out of the ground a ton. We will. It's just not our wheelhouse. Now let's just go through let's go through our deal. Our deals, we're buying value add properties that we're looking for management issues and capex issues. So our capex issues: cameras, lighting, doors, paint, pavement, landscaping. That's the simplest way to break it down, dude. That's it. Like, that's it. There is not much more to this business besides, do I need to get the place lit and secure to make everyone feel safe? Are the doors in working condition? I can fix them or I can replace them. Real simple. And we usually vote to fix them or to replace them because we're legacy owners. When we did residential real estate, we always went in and gut renovated everything to make our lives easier for the long term. If I'm going to own this for the next 30 years, I want to get rid of all my problems today. After we do that, we look at paint. Okay, what needs to get painted, brought back to life, whether it's Everbright, painting it, making it look cool so it stands out. And then, what did I say? Landscaping and pavement. Make the place look pretty so people know it's safe and secure. And are you going to stone the lot, pave it, concrete, fix any of that? There's not much else to it, man. That's real simple. Now, on your side of things, when you're developing and how that relates to, you said, well, how long does it take to lease up? When I'm looking at deals that are value add type facilities, I don't give a crap about the square foot per capita. And what that is they take how many square feet of storage is in the marketplace and they divide it by how many people are there. And some guy somewhere in some far off land said that 8 is the magic number. If it's less than 8 to build, if it's more than 8, you don't do it. And there's no rhyme or reason to it, because I'll tell you what, we own a facility. I own a facility out in Arkansas. The square foot per capita in the 3-mile radius was like 30 because it was an industrial area. There was no people near there. And that means there was no intrinsic value to it. If I would have followed the rules, I would have never bought that facility. Actually, I bought it from another storage investor because he was scared of that exact thing. I said, dude, for $15 a foot, I'm buying this bitch. Like, it's not even a question. So for you, you're going to spend a little more time on feasibility studies. You're going to spend more time on laying it out. You're probably going to do a climate control facility. So you might do some more smaller units than what I'm used to. I like to do bigger units because we go after the contractors, the business types that need this storage. I don't want the transient type person coming in and out on a traditional type facility. In a climate control facility, someone's spending 2 to 3x what they would spend on a traditional type unit, non-climate control. They're willing to pay 2 to 3x to store their stuff. That means something to them. Their auction, they're not going to go to auction. They're going to put nice stuff in there. So you might spend some more time looking at your unit mix compared to what I would do. And you have a lot more options than I do. And look, development's great. Just you're just going to take a little bit more time. And I think building out in phases is insanely smart. Try it, see if it works. Great lease up. Cool. Let's do another phase. Cool. Let's do another phase. and you got the square footage to do it. That's the best way. If you can find facilities where you have a couple buildings and you can expand slowly over time and not take all the capital risk up day one, no brainer. It's an absolute no brainer.
That's exactly what we were thinking because, it's our first venture. We want to move into it slowly, and maybe that could cost us a little more on the stop and start construction side of it, right? Than if we just went and built everything at once. But also, I would rather pay that cost than take on the risk of 600 units flooding the market all at once. What we're also doing with phase one is we're building an equal amount of 5x5, 10x5, 10x10s, 10x15s, 15x15s, 20, all the way up to I think 20 or 20x25 maybe, because we want to see, okay, what leases up the fastest, and then that will help determine what goes into phase two. Hey, maybe the 5x5s leased up way faster than everything else. Okay, let's build some more 5x5s in the next one.
Yeah, no, that's a super smart play. And then, doing an interior climate control facility, I want to get down to Chattanooga. We're going to meet up with one of our property managers. She lives in town.
Come on down.
When I'm down there, I definitely want to walk through. We can do some cool video content on that too.
So much
fun. I would say that if you're in a place where you build a mezzanine level, so you do all structural steel on the first floor, and then you can go up if you got the deck height. At 18-foot ceilings, most people don't realize what they got above them is insanely valuable, dude. Like if you're in a building. And you got 18-foot ceilings, you can get 2 stories in there. Okay, cool. Do structural steel on the first floor. Spend a little bit more money. Do all the units on the first floor and say, you know what? I might do a remix later and go all big units on the first floor and do all my small units upstairs because people aren't carrying a bunch of shit upstairs, right? And that's the best thing about self-storage. It's literally like Legos. A lot of these buildings are 30 to 40 feet wide on your traditional stuff. You can move the interior wall and turn a 10x40 into a 10x20, a 10x15, and then the opposite side is the inverse of it. There's a lot of cool things that you can do just by moving one wall. You can't do that, dude. Yeah, commercial's a little bit different, but like super long-term leases, I can't do that in the residential world. Just mow over one wall and make a 2-unit into 1 unit, or it's not the same. And that's the nice thing. By doing stuff in phases, you can see where you are and move your unit mix, how much you want to build. I mean, there's a case to be had. Maybe Chattanooga is the new hotspot, and you build that whole site into storage. You're smarter than all of us. But like you said, who wants to bring 1,000 units to market and have to give specials and lease up specials, lease consent, like the whole thing? You don't want to go through all of that. You want to do a little bit if you can, and that's a very smart play.
Yeah, it would be such a nightmare to just bring all of that online at once and then just sit there, fingers crossed, and hope you can get it figured out. Would you go with a more boutique style self-storage facility where we just hire a third-party manager, or would you recommend looking at like branding as a Life Storage or branding as, one of those groups?
Yeah, so
franchising, I guess. I don't know what you call it.
Yes. Yeah, so if you want to go the third-party manage, the 3PM, you'll see it a lot in the industry. REIT managed type properties, Life Storage, Cube Smart, Extra Space, Public Storage. You go with one of them. If you got SBA funding, you can't even use them. Just get it out.
Really?
Yep. If you're using SBA lending, you cannot use a REIT to manage your site. Now, if you're using traditional type, sure, you can use them. One thing with the REITs is they have not figured out how to go unmanned yet. They like the idea of it. Their business model does not allow them. They just have not figured out how to put it all together. They're still big on district manager, in-unit managers, store managers, the whole nine. Like that is what they do very, very well. And they have not seemed to get away from that and go to the unmanned model. U-Haul, a little bit more, but usually their U-Haul stores are tied up with the U-Haul releasing center, and it's not the end of the world, but they got a pretty badass call center. Now, that being said, we managed our stuff for a very long time on our own. And as we created scale for us, we said, hey, we're really good at CapEx. We're really good at acquisitions and raising the capital. Let's just concentrate on that and bring a manager in for now. And hopefully they make our job so stupidly easy that we never want to get rid of them. And I think we found that with our property manager. But there's also a side to say, you know what, you should cut your teeth, you should learn. Because I get a lot of guys that ask me, they're like, well, if you're going third party, then like, why do you care so much on learning everything about your industry? I'm like, I want to know either A, where I'm getting screwed, B, where I'm bleeding out money, C, how can I help them and be like, listen, I'm willing to do these specials, or I'm willing to do these rent cuts, or whatever it is. Like, knowing you, like, you still got to know the job, dude. Like, you still got to understand that just because you give it to a third party, oh, fuck it, I'm done. Sorry, I don't mean to curse on your show. But it's like,
You're fine.
dude, like, you can't just throw your hands up and be done. At this point, you're managing the asset. You're managing the manager, and you need to know what's going on, because if you don't identify those issues ahead of time, you can get into a lot of trouble really, really quick. And by paying attention to those things and learning everything you can, and sometimes it's doing a smaller facility, cutting your teeth on it, learning everything, the ins and outs, and then buying some bigger facilities and finding the right manager to manage your asset, and someone that you jive with that has the same investment thesis as you from a CapEx, from a day-to-day management standpoint. You might not know that all up front day one, and there's some really good sales guys out there. So, I would suggest at your scale, for the size that you're doing, and you're a really good operator, I believe that you could identify the right third-party property manager to manage that site, and allow you to do the CapEx, which you're obviously very good at. And I would tend to believe that's probably the way that you want to go on that one. But I could be wrong. It is a big site. If you're like, well, I'm going to have staff here anyway, doing janitorial. I'm going to have an office person here anyway, and I want to monetize them. Well, maybe it is worth it for you to manage on your own,
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I mean, I was leaning more towards, the smaller boutique style management, because I think that just kind of jives with our investment philosophy so much more. But wanted to ask the expert. Ian, this has been...
Here's the thing. You want to be able
to...
I got to assume you're like me. You want to be able to pick up the phone and be like, yo, dude, what the F is going on?
What are you doing?
Like, this doesn't seem right to me, right? Versus you got to go and call the district manager at Life Storage, who has a boss that has a boss that has a boss that has a boss. Like, I'm not talking shit on Life Storage, but it's like, dude, it's way more corporate. It's going to be way harder to move the needle. Whereas our manager right now, they're great. She's a CPA by trade. He worked for more or less a publicly traded company that develops self-storage, knows all the ins and outs. I pick up the phone, I shoot him a text. I hit them on their app that they have to manage us. It's just like, hey guys, what's going on? Okay, cool. Like, we're on the same page. Usually we're on the same page already. If not, they're like, yo, great idea. We're going to start implementing that. Thanks for the idea. Keep it way more entrepreneurial. And I think guys like us that are looking to get high returns for our investors, you need someone that jives with you,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and to be nimble, right? Because there's so much that could change throughout this entire thing, especially as we're phasing it out,
Yeah.
Well, Ian, this was a great conversation, man. I appreciate you coming on the show and telling us all about self-storage. If anybody listening wants to invest with you or learn from you, or reach out about a self-storage deal, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find us at equitywarehouse.com. We have some case studies on there. It'll walk you through what we do, and pretty much all across all the asset classes we've ever invested in. Or you could just shoot me an email at ian@equitywarehouse.com. We are doing a small cap raise on a self-storage portfolio now. But with that being said, and plus you can find us on social, my name or Equity Warehouse. We're all over the place. I've tagged Tyler a few times. So you'll be able to find us either through him or through us. And just send a DM, send an email. I might not answer immediately, but I will eventually get to you, and happy to help. So.
Awesome. All right, Ian. Appreciate it, man. Everybody else, we will see y'all next week. Thank you for listening to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by Hamilton, your resource for passive real estate investment opportunities. Visit www.investwithhamilton.com to start building your passive real estate portfolio today.